they said you don't see in cinema a lot where a guy cooks for another guy as an expression of love. So like they're
That's
trying
true.
to show like in this instance that this was that
An
expression. Like
expression.
even though they weren't sure where they were with things, but it's just like I'm still going to do this for you, especially because it's something that I'm good at now or whatever.
Which then speaks volume to the lack thereof food being prepared for him by his mom.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
he's getting that sustenance everywhere else but home.
Good morning, my neighbors!
Damn! His mama named him Clay. I'ma call him Clay.
One band, one sound.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
I like the way you die, boy.
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. Wakanda forever!
All right, so welcome to WAP at the Movies. That's right. Well, actually, podcast at the movies. I'm your host, Toju. Thank you for listening, however you may be listening. This is our Black movie podcast where we dissect, dig deep into some of our classics of Black cinema. Please subscribe, rate, review wherever you may be listening to this podcast. Go ahead and leave us a nice 5-star review. Leave some comments on some movies you'd like us to talk about in a future episode. Anyway, I am pleased to welcome one of my closest homies who thinks he watches more movies than I do. That is a discussion for another day. But Mr. Mac, what's going on, brother?
It's good, man. And I definitely watch more movies than you. That is not
Uh,
even debatable.
okay, well, that's a conversation for another day. So Mac is one of the people that I spoke to about this project before I got started. Picked his brain on a few ideas, and our schedules haven't exactly synced up. So this was just like the perfect opportunity to get into one of these movies that I feel like it is really important because of the subject matter, the type of movie it is, and all that. And I'm just glad we get to talk about it.
Yeah, same here, man.
All right, so we're just gonna jump right into the movie here, and it is the 2016 coming of age drama Moonlight. All right, and before I go any further, I just want to give sort of warning, I guess, because there will be language that is used in the movie itself, whether it's the theme, whether it's, some might consider it vulgar, some might even consider it offensive, and it's going to be true to the language in the movie, just to make sure that the filmmakers' vision is actually being kept. So that's why just giving, like, if you consider certain words to be too offensive to your sensibilities, I understand. I'm not necessarily judging you. I'm just letting you know and preparing you ahead of time. All right, so the synopsis. A young African American man grapples with his identity and sexuality while experiencing the struggles of childhood, adolescence, and burgeoning adulthood.
Yeah, with the synopsis, to be fair, normally I always watch like a few clips of a trailer, recent reviews before I watch something. With this one, I knew we were gonna watch this. I was gonna watch this and speak about it with you. So I did not see the trailer. However, I did see the synopsis. So yeah, I'll say that's a fairly accurate depiction of what's in the movie.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So the tagline: "This is the story of a lifetime."
Eh, I think that's more common
I mean,
nowadays.
I don't think they're talking about like the story, like that, like of our lifetime. I mean, it may be just like the story depicting a lifetime.
Uh,
It's okay. You're not feeling it.
yeah, I'm not feeling that. Not feeling
Okay.
that.
All right. So we're going into the cast, and we're starting off with Mahershala Ali as Juan. I first found him in a TV series called The 4400, one of the
Mm.
OG USA Network shows. This was, I think, it even predates like Psych and Burn Notice.
Oh
Uh,
wow, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. So, and then of course he was Remy Danton in House of Cards.
Hmm.
He was also in Luke Cage. He was in season 3 of True Detective. and most recently he was in that Netflix movie Leave the World Behind.
Yep. I think my introduction to him was from House of Cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have Naomi Harris as Paula. She was in a couple of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. She was in a couple of the new James Bond movies, Spectre and No Time to Die. She was Moneypenny.
Mm.
And then she was in a series with Chiwetel Ejiofor in The Man Who Fell to Earth. So if you're
Wasn't
into
she?
sci-fi, you would like that.
Wasn't she also the one in is it Four Colored Girls, or I forgot the name of the movie, where a child gets tossed off the background?
Oh wow,
You don't remember that movie?
I have not seen For Color Girls. So
Oh, yeah, very graphic movie.
yeah, I've not seen For Color Girls. Maybe that's one of the movies. Yeah, well, I don't want to make any promises.
She's a great actress. I mean,
Yeah, no, she absolutely is. She absolutely is.
yes.
And we also have the film debut of Janelle Monae as Teresa. She was
She's
also
amazing.
she was in Harriet, Homecoming. She was also in Hidden Figures that came out the same year and was also nominated for Best Picture the same year as this with
Oh wow,
Mahershala Ali. Yeah,
Hidden Figures, another hidden gem. That
yeah.
I would say is a hidden gem, but I feel like it didn't get the publicity or acclamation
Really?
that it could have gotten. Yeah,
I feel like it did, especially because of how it performed at the box office. Like it was one of those
yeah, it
it
did
was
well in
one
the
of those
box
black movies
office.
that white people could feel good about because they weren't too critical of them.
They were, but at the same time, I felt like it didn't get as much recognition in terms of awards.
Oh yeah, I mean because
Yeah.
it lost to Moonlight, so
Hmm.
that's probably why. We also
Okay.
have Trevante Rhodes as Black. I believe this was his major debut as well. He went on to star in 12 Strong, Bird Box. There was a Mike
Mm,
Tyson show
remake.
on Hulu called Mike. Obviously, he played Mike,
I,
and I don't want to badmouth this guy, but he was
I,
in that movie Mea Culpa with Kelly Rowland on Netflix.
I
You're,
didn't see that one.
yeah, don't. I saw it, so you didn't have to.
So what about his performance in the one you just mentioned before that? Was it good?
Mike,
Yeah.
the
I
TV show. I haven't seen it. But I know
oh, okay.
he like artificially gave himself a gap and all that,
Yeah.
and he already
Yeah.
had the stature for like to play Mike. So
Yeah.
uh,
I heard Mike wasn't. I mean, not I heard, but Mike said he wasn't too thrilled about it.
oh
Um,
really?
yeah, he was upset about the way he was portrayed in the movie, and he did
Oh
not endorse it. So as a result, I guess I
oh.
just sort of didn't watch the movie, the
I
show
mean,
or movie.
typically, if the subject of a show, movie, biopic, or whatever, if they endorse it, it means it's been very cleaned up anyway.
Yeah, and they probably have an input on it. Mike
Yeah,
didn't have an input,
yeah.
you know.
So I mean, so those stories are not going to be the most complimentary. And in fairness, like the way he was living back then, it wasn't worthy of that many compliments, at least outside the ring, anyway. So
Yeah, that's true. Fair
so I
enough.
mean, that might make me want to go see it even more now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I might just add it to the list. I thought it was a
yeah.
movie. I didn't know it was a show.
No, no, it's a series. Yeah,
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's eight. Yeah, 8 episodes.
And
I
you
mean,
said
if
this was Rhodes' big debut.
yeah, Moonlight was his big debut.
His debut, yeah, more like
Yeah.
so.
Then we have Jerome, who played Kevin at age 16. This was his feature film debut as well. He went on to play. He went to star in Monster in 2018. That was a movie that starred ASAP Rocky of all people.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Jennifer Hudson. Uh, I forget the last guy. I think
So it's called Monster.
yeah, it's called Monster. It was like
Yeah, I might
yeah,
have
it
to check
was
that out.
that one was really good. It was
When I
it,
when I saw him,
mhm,
the first thing that comes to mind is When They See Us.
absolutely yeah. So he
That's
was in Monster
standout.
before he was in When They See Us. So he was in
See
Monster in
us.
2018, When They See Us in 2019, and of course that's where he won his Emmy. He won his Emmy for When
Mm,
They See Us. Then he had
well deserved.
I think it was a Amazon Prime movie called I'm a Virgo, and then
Mm,
he also voiced a character in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and most recently he was in a series called Full Circle, and
oh,
he
okay.
has a couple things coming up as well. And then finally, we have Alex Hibbert as Little. I don't know if you remember. I kind of put it together when I finished watching. So remember at the end of Black Panther when they drop down in their spaceship. It's one of the post-credit scenes where they drop down on a basketball court, and someone's like, "Is that a Bugatti spaceship?"
Yeah, one of the kids in the park.
Yeah, so the kids that go to it, and then one kid walks towards T'Challa and Shuri. That's Alex Hibbert.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's him. And then
apparently he's also stars in The Shy.
Yeah, that's.
I've never seen the show, but yeah, I was told that.
I don't know if he's like the main character, but he's been like 50 episodes. Yeah. So that's his main thing right now. Yep.
Yeah, he's getting something. Yeah, he got a good thing going over there.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. So the director is Barry Jenkins. He made his filmmaking debut in a movie called Medicine for Melancholy. Moonlight was his second ever movie. Yeah.
Well, that's his second ever movie. That's a huge accomplishment, to be fair.
And then after that, he went on to direct If Beale Street Could Talk, and he's directing the upcoming Mufasa The Lion King movie.
The new one that's coming out, right?
Yeah, he's the director of that. Yeah. So he's making some moves.
Yeah, he's making moves. Speaking of which, rest in peace to Mufasa, man.
Yeah, R.I.P. James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. I mean, he lived a full life. He
did. 92, I believe.
So many iconic
characters coming to America.
Yeah, one of our past episodes. Go check that out. It was the voice of Darth Vader. Field of Dreams. It spans literally
decades.
I want to say you can actually say it spans centuries, like 21st and 20th century. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because original Lion King's what, 92, something like that.
Yeah, 92, 93. Yeah. And that was when he was already established. Like the original Star Wars came out in the 70s.
Yes.
So yeah, and he was established even then. So yeah, he like
he's been there, done that.
Yeah, he absolutely has. And then so Moonlight was written. So the two writing credits. Barry Jenkins wrote the screenplay, and Terrell Alvin McCraney. Moonlight was based on a play he wrote. And I believe the name of the play is In Moonlight, Black Boys Appear Blue or Look Blue. So it was, I guess some people saw the play, but Barry Jenkins wrote a screenplay for it. And then he also wrote a movie called High Flying Bird, and it was a Netflix movie. So he's made some connections since then. Yeah.
Okay. He's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah. I mean, he got an Oscar for it. So I mean, yeah.
So he's always been like in a producing, director, writer side of things, or was he always an actor, or did he ever go into acting itself?
Oh, you mean Terrell or Barry Jenkins?
Barry.
Oh, Barry Jenkins. No, the credits I just gave were for Terrell. Barry Jenkins. I think his writing credits are limited to the movies he's directed as well.
Okay.
So, but Terrell, the work is based on Terrell's play. Okay. So that's why he got a writing credit as well.
That makes sense.
All right. So the budget, I've seen a couple different things. So it's either 1.5 million or 4 million. So I believe like the production budget was 1.5, and I think including marketing and all that went out to 4 million total.
That's not bad. For the quality of the movie, I genuinely am surprised.
Yeah. So I think we've done so there's a movie house called A24 that they do a lot of like really good movies, but low budget.
I know them, the production company.
Yeah. So this was a joint venture between A24 and Plan B. Okay. Plan B is Brad Pitt's production company.
Yep, I remember seeing his name post credits.
Yeah, so he was one of the executive producers. So he was one that helped secure funding and a distribution deal for the movie when he saw it at like one of these film festivals.
That's pretty nice. Yeah. I was generally shocked when I saw his name pop up at the end, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, he won an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave because he was one of the producers of that. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he been out there. All right, so like we said, budget between 1.5 and 4 million. The box office performance domestically made 27.9 million, and worldwide it made 65 million. Yeah.
So those two numbers you just told me is separate,
Yeah, so 27 is just for US and Canada.
just the US.
Then 65 is worldwide
That's
including.
an amazing turnover.
Yeah.
Return on investment. That's an amazing return on investment.
Absolutely. It's one of
And
those things with yeah, that's why these A24 Plan B, they go in for a low amount.
because they know like the potential of what that kind of product can do. And let's not forget, right? This movie was on Netflix for a while before it was taken off. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah,
So
it was
they've
a
had it,
while ago.
yeah, they've had it on a few streaming platforms. So I think the numbers, you know, is potentially greater than what it is. It shows that it made internationally and locally.
Yeah. So
Right?
you can imagine like what
The
kind of
royalties.
yeah, some people are eating off of this, man. They're gonna be eating off of this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've heard nowadays, like some of the bigger names, they tend to try to get royalties written into their contracts because they know the potential of what it can, what it can make long term.
Right.
Not just limited. I think that happened with Scarlett Johansson. If you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that. I think it was Black
Yeah.
Widow.
Black
Sorry to,
she went to
yeah, I'm
court.
not
She
trying to
went to
go
court
into,
over it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because she said I think it was some sort of dispute about the royalties.
You want me to tell you what happened with it?
Yeah.
So she had a portion of her deal that she would get back end compensation based on box office performance.
Mhm.
And Disney they decided they were going to release it in theaters and on Disney Plus at the same
At the same
time.
time. Okay, I remember that.
So she wouldn't be she basically they're cutting into the box office performance because for Disney, whether you watch it in theaters or watch it on Disney Plus, they're making their money. But she doesn't get access to the payout from Disney Plus. So eventually they reworked something where she got a cut. Like because she's like
Which is
when
fair.
yeah, like when we made this agreement, this was not going to be streaming, at least not in the regular timeline.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Which
and
is
Disney
why they
didn't want
always
to
hold
draw
off
off.
for streaming after it's been in the theaters or on the box office for a couple of whatever weeks.
Yeah.
So it
So
makes sense.
yeah, they did right by her. She still made her money, but nowhere near our DJ money. But that's the
Yeah.
conversation for another day.
Ain't nobody making RDJ money, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get into some Rotten Tomato scores, and this typically lets us see what the critical uh, reception was to a movie. They aggregate reviews from a whole bunch of sources, and I want to see if you can, if you're in the ballpark of what the critic score was as a percentage on Moonlight.
For critic score for Moonlight, if I had to guess genuinely, I would say out of a 10. Critics usually tend to be more critical of a movie than a regular audience. Audience usually is about feel good, lights, glamour, glitz. I'd say 67.
The critic score was 98%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I am
hmm
genuinely shocked. I'm
Yep.
actually surprised.
Yep. 98% on 403 reviews.
So it
What
wasn't
about
like,
yeah? Go ahead.
yeah, so it wasn't like a handful of people. This is like a very big sample size of
Yeah.
critics. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. So what about the audience score? What do you think on the percentage?
And now I think the audience goes. I think the audience score is definitely lower than the 98. But from an audience perspective, from like, I would say 80, 85.
Oh, you were so close. 79% on over 25,000 ratings. All right, so we're gonna go through some of those reviews, but before we do that, like I said, go ahead and give us a nice review whatever platform you're listening or watching on. And if you're on YouTube, leave a comment with a movie you'd like us to do. Remember, the only qualification that has to be a black movie. That's it. Black movie you'd like us to talk about. That's it. After all, this is a black movie podcast. Like, yeah. All right. So now on to our positive reviews. Jacqueline Coley from Black Girl Nerds. An intimate tale that will leave you deeply affected and one of the best films of 2016. Yeah. So she was on the train early.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
I think I like that comment.
All right. Richard Roper, one of the OGs from Chicago Sun-Times. Moonlight is gorgeous yet bleak, uplifting and yet sobering, exhilarating but also grounded in some unshakable realities.
Um, a lot of fancy terms there, but I will say, yes, for the most part, I agree with what he said. It's like the beauty part of it. That's the first thing that I and this instantly was drawn to the quality of the picture, the way the scenes were shot was beautiful. And then
We'll get to something on that. We'll get something
okay,
on that.
and then the
Yeah.
unshakable reality comment. Yes, that is a unfortunate sad reality for a lot of people. So I think yeah, that's a very good comment.
All right. Tim Grierson from Screen International. An indelible portrait of an imperiled life. Moonlight is a devastating depiction of masculinity, race, and identity. Ambitious in scope but precise in its execution. This deceptively small scale character piece reverberates with compassion and insight.
For one, I see why that guy's a critic. The way he wrote that was elegant. Also accurate. I agree with
All
what he
right.
said.
One final one from another OG, Peter Travers of Rolling Stone. Barry Jenkins, game changer about growing up black, gay, and alienated in the Miami projects is both intimate and epic. It gets inside your head, makes you see the world with new eyes, and then it owns you.
Accurate because when you think of the unfortunate sad reality that some people go through, like um, we hear about these things, but we don't see it from the eyes of that person specifically. So he's correct. That movie showed me a different side, or it gave me a little insight to how they feel and how their life is growing up.
All right, all right. So now to the negative reviews. Like I said, it
Mm.
was 98%, but I found some. I'm
There's
telling
always
you,
go-
I found some.
there's always gonna be the naysayers. It's all right.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I wish you could see this guy's headshot. You like, yeah, I bet you had a negative review on this. So this is from someone called Cole Smythe of ColeSmythe.com. Of
Okay.
course it is. Here is a movie designed to make white audiences proud of the tears they shed in a darkened theater, because those salty drops of water prove just how sensitive they are, except not really.
Screams racism for one, very blatant. Number two, you could tell, in my opinion, he didn't give an actual review regarding the quality of the movie itself. He just mentioned something about black and tears, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
White,
white tears.
there you go, white tears. For one, I don't know. Just to me personally, he just sounded someone that was hating.
Yeah.
That was overly critical of a black production.
All right. I wonder how you're gonna feel about this one. From Fausto Ponce from Proceso, a film where what prevails is a feeling of bewilderment as spectators amidst great performances and photography. So, admittedly, that review was translated from Spanish, so it's a Spanish publication.
Can you repeat that real quick?
Okay, a film where what prevails is a feeling of bewilderment as spectators amidst great performances and photography.
I missed great performances in choreography. So he technically says he likes the photography and the for one, that's positive. The second half of his comment is positive. And the first part he said bewilderment. I think that was kind of what the movie was going for, if I'm not mistaken. Sort of a shock value slash insight into something we're not normally used to seeing or talking about. So I don't even see how that's a negative review based on his comments. Am I tripping?
I feel like there was a much larger or much longer review, and this was a
Mm,
snippet that was submitted.
okay.
So maybe it was less complimentary, even though this kind of feels a little backhanded in a way.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I
Well,
read that, and if someone didn't tell me this a positive or negative review, just from that snippet, it sounds kind of positive, which
yeah,
is
but
weird.
you can have good performances in a whack movie.
That's true.
So maybe that's what this person is saying. Like it looks good visually,
Mm,
the
but
performances are good, but everything around it is
execution
not.
isn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's see what you think about this one. This is from Fernanda Solozano of Letras Libres. Oh boy. Although it's not bad, I found it overrated, as it tells a story through a trite narrative formula and flat
Mhm.
characters that we've already seen in dozens of films.
One more time. Let me hear that.
Although it's not bad, I found it overrated, as it tells a story through a trite narrative formula and flat characters that we've already seen in dozens of films.
Uh, I strongly disagree. From flat characters that we have not seen in dozens of films or have seen in dozens of films.
That we've already been seeing. Yeah.
I don't think I think that's an unfair statement to make. To be fair, because I think the characters that they picked did their characters. They did the actors and actresses they picked did the characters justice.
All right. So our final negative review, and boy, this one is a doozy. Uh, Jim Sembro of 3AW. What begins as an arresting blend of lyrical storytelling and bad neighborhood harshness gradually ferments into a relentlessly melancholic dirge in dire need of somewhere to go, an early contender for the most overrated film of the year.
um, so this person says even though it started off great, it lost direction and lacked conviction or something. If that's what I'm kind of getting from it. Um,
I just see the person saying it's the most overrated film of the year, the movie that won.
so I
Yeah,
guess he doesn't like it, all the hype that he was getting. So once again, this sounds more so like a person that is not giving an honest review, but is overly critical about the positive reviews it was getting.
yeah,
So once again, it sounds like they were upset that the movie was getting I guess, a bigger accomplishment or pat on the back than they expected and slash anticipated.
yeah. So like out of the four negative reviews, two of the reviews were not reacting to the movie, but to the reaction to the movie.
Their reaction to the movie, exactly what I was trying to get at, because it once again didn't seem like they were being objective and or dissecting the movie as is. They were just reacting to the outside noise, which is outside the scope of the movie. So why be a critic at that
Well,
point?
yeah, I don't disagree at all.
Yeah.
All right, now, so we're going to get into the feature presentation, and like I said before, some of the language, it was an R-rated movie, and it deals with certain themes that not everybody may be comfortable with. So just
Mhm.
letting you know ahead of time. All right. All right. Juan pulls up in his old school car, durag on head, cigarette in mouth, which he quickly slips behind his ear. He approaches one of his corner boys who is talking to a customer who is trying to get something on credit. I was like, okay, the the authenticity is already seeping out of this movie. We're not glorifying anything. We're letting you know that even that
It was
even
given the wire.
yeah, even crackheads are trying to come up. So he
They
tells him,
evolving.
yeah, he tells him he doesn't have if he doesn't have any money, he should keep it moving. The fiend eventually comes up with some money and hands it to the corner boy. He tells one of his runners to hook the fiend up. Uh, and the corner boy tries to give Juan, who's played by Mahershala Ali, the day's payout, and he tells him, "No, just hold on to it. He'll empty the register on weekends."
Okay.
Juan asks the corner boy about his mom's health, and he's like, she's doing better, Uh, and he tells him she's in his prayers. And then after that, we see a bunch of kids chasing one little boy, and they are hurling gay slurs at him. Like nothing is like that. That was just what they were doing, and he's running for his life. He hides in a boarded up. I'm not sure if that was an apartment or a hotel that was like abandoned, but it had that look. And the kids are like banging on the door, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go try the other side, and they start throwing things at the windows. Eventually, they leave. The little kid is in the, like I said, the boarded up room, and he found what looks like a crack pipe. And while he's examining it, there's like this loud knock on the door, and it startles him. Uh, Eventually, we see some hands pulling down the boards that are like over where the windows used to be, and then in walks Juan. Well, in climbs Juan, like he climbs through where the window was, and he asks the little kid what he's doing here. He's met with silence. Juan says he's going to get something to eat, and he's welcome to join him. Juan unlocks the door and steps out, and then he like calls for the kid, like, come on now, like it can't be no worse out here than what you're looking for, like what you're hiding from in there. And then we see a title card of Part One, Little.
Yeah, I think that was a good introduction to the movie. I usually like one thing I say about movies, right? If when it's not um a star-studded or a big headliner of a movie, in my opinion, you need something that immediately draws the audience in, so it captivates their mind and their attention. And I think this did a good job of that. So that opening scene, I was able to see how um you could tell, okay, what the movie was sort of gonna be about. Um, and just Mahershala Ali, in my opinion, he's a very good actor. I think he plays this character well, and it showed, okay, sort of this is going to be one of those bleak, harsh realities of maybe drug dealer, broken down kid, and him walking in to the scene where he tries to help this little boy. My initial thought was that this is how he recruits people that work from him. So I could see that because once again, the first part you see is him talking to one of his corner boys. He asks about the guy's mother and how she's doing. So I'm like, okay, I took my notes down. He's someone that, sort of still looks over his people or cares for the community, but he does what he has to do. And then when he saw the little boy, in my head, I immediately went, okay, this is how he gets them in. Catch them when they're vulnerable, come and plays this savior, brings them up, and all of a sudden they start working from him. So that's what I got from that scene.
So they're sitting in a diner. Juan is asking for his name or where he lives so that he can get him back home. When he's not getting any answers, he pulls a tray of food away from the kid, and the kid like sadly drops his head and pouts. Juan quickly apologizes that he's just trying to get him to say something. They drive to Juan's house, and Juan, smart man, he goes in to explain the situation to his girl first. His wife, Teresa, who's played by Janelle Monae. She's annoyed by it, but she's understanding of the situation. So
Yeah, as I'll say Janelle Monae, the moment I saw, because once again, I did not see the trailer for this movie. I wanted to go in with a completely open mind, other than reading the synopsis. And to be fair, I literally did not know any of the cast as well. All I know about Moonlight, I promise you, is just the poster. So Janelle Monae walks in. For whatever reason, I was just happy to see her because I was already sort of getting this idea of, okay, this might be an all black cast movie, and it's also us given a. I feel like it's given a chance slash a platform and an introduction to new people that will start to be in the movie industry. If that makes any sense. But I will say she's stunning. That's the first thing I noticed. Yeah, I don't know if you ever noticed that, but about drug
what do you
dealers.
have? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but from like movies about drug dealers or shows, they always tend to have a soft spot or for, regardless of what their real life is, with for either their mother, wife, or girlfriend. And that's the first thing I noticed.
all right. So she comes into the car and convinces him to come inside. When so all right. So they're inside the house, and Juan says something like, "This kid doesn't talk a lot, but he sure can eat." And Teresa says that's all right. He can talk when he's ready. Moments later, he says that his name is Chiron, but people call him Little. They ask him where he's from, and he says Liberty City, and he stays with his mom. They ask Chiron if he wants them to drop him off at home. after he's done eating, and he says no.
Yep. The
Uh,
moment he said no, I knew there was something else going on.
yeah, so they're already introducing that little seed of
Yeah,
doubt. Yeah,
yeah, see the doubt because I'm thinking, you just went through something traumatic after being chased around. There comes this shady, you don't know, a stranger. The first thing you want to do, like most kids, would run home to mom and dad, and he says no. So, something must be going on at home as well as to why he doesn't want to leave.
yeah.
Like if it was given like that situation he walked into was sort of safer than what he had going on at home.
Yeah. All right. So Teresa says he can spend the night there, and he says he would like that. The next morning, Juan drives him home, and as he's knocking on the door, a woman in scrubs walks up and asks what happened. She's like, "Why didn't he come home when he was supposed to?" And she looks at Juan and asks, "Like, who are you?" And he says, "Nobody." But he found Chiron at a crack spot, and I don't know if you caught it, but she had this knowing look of, "Yeah, I know where you're talking about." So I caught that on the second viewing. I didn't catch it the
I,
first
I didn't
time.
I didn't catch it on the first viewing, but the moment he said he caught him on like a crack spot, whatever it was, I felt like she was preemptively already judging him. Okay, so what are you doing there to have seen my son there? The way you're dressed, they tend to dress a certain way. She seemed to do right, the earrings, whatever it was. So I feel like she placed judgment right then and there about who he was.
No, but the way I'm talking about, she is familiar with the place, not in judgment, but in
Mm.
familiarity.
Yeah, I get you.
As a, I don't want to say as a customer, but as
I've
a
been there
frequenter.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of caught that the second time around. I didn't catch it the first time.
Okay.
So she thanks him for taking care of Chiron, but she said he's normally good at taking her care of himself. As Juan is about to leave, he attempts to dap up Chiron, and Paula, that's the mom played by Naomi Harris, she kind of like shields Chiron away. Like
Yeah,
he's like, okay, uh,
yeah. I thought that was very condescending. For one, this man just returned your child back to you. You should be more respectful and grateful, regardless of whatever you may think of him. But to me, that just seems so unnecessary.
I mean, if you look at it this way, this is a strange man bringing your son home. You don't know, just because they say he's okay, you don't know what has happened.
That's transpired.
Yeah, in between. So I'm like, yeah, I can see that in just that instance, sure, because we know what happened. She doesn't.
Yeah, I get that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, still being unknowing, if somebody returns my child back to me, regardless of what happened, I'm gonna be happy and thankful for them in that moment, rather than be judgmental as to what I don't know about. You can find that information out later.
Yeah.
But bringing my child to me, thank you. I mean, even if she thought negative of the guy, what if he didn't bring the kid back?
Hmm.
So
There's also that.
yeah,
Uh, so Paula tells Chiron that he should come home when he's supposed to come home. She hugs him and says it's all right, that she's just glad he's home. So he gets up off the couch and goes to turn on the TV, and as if to let us know like this is a period in time that's not right now. We see this big box TV, and
yeah,
she says, "Nope, your TV privileges are revoked,"
yeah.
and said, "Go find something to read." Uh, then they cut to a bunch of kids playing some kind of game in the field. It's basically like based on the trivia, it's a game where they like make it's not really a ball, but they've made a ball out of something and they throw
Yeah.
it in the air.
So
Whoever catches it, they basically like chase the person essentially.
yes.
So this time the attention was turned to Chiron, but he didn't like catch it or anything. They were just like, "We're picking on you today. Like this is
Hmm.
this we're on you." And as the attention turns to him, some other kid grabs the ball, and they chase after him. Like kids have a short attention span anyway. Like that's what they were there to do. And Chiron uses that opportunity to sort of walk away. And as he's walking away, we're introduced to a kid named Kevin, and he walks up to Chiron, and they talk. And he's basically asking Chiron like, "Why do you let them pick on you?" And Chiron's looking at him like, "What do you mean? Like, I'm not letting them. They're just doing it. What do you mean by not
Yeah.
letting them?
He had that confused face, like,
Yeah, it's
dude,
like,
like,
what do you
what
mean
did
let
I do? I did nothing.
let them? Bro, they're I'm existing and they're doing it. Like so Kevin
Yeah.
says like you got to show them you ain't soft. And he's like, I'm not soft. Like I'm not soft. He's like, yeah, but you got to show them. And then they wrestle for a bit. It, I was kind of afraid one of them was going to get hurt. I don't know because I'm like,
Nah, initially when he pushed him, I kind of knew he was testing him, like you need to start fighting back and stand
yeah,
for yourself.
yeah. But
So I
I'm
thought
saying like
maybe
even in the middle of that, I thought,
he thought someone was gonna get hurt.
yeah, no, I mean because it's just kids roughhousing. Like I'm sure like they had like some sort of supervision on. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
even in all that, like kids like kids play too much.
kids play rough. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So at the end of it, Kevin says, "See, I knew you wasn't soft." And then they just take off sprinting. Like after all that, I'm like, bro, y'all were just tired and not like, yeah. Kids have way too much
kids,
energy.
kids, way too much energy. But I can see that happening though.
Yeah,
Generally, yeah.
yeah. No, I get that. So now, Juan pulls up to his driveway and Chiron is sitting there waiting for him, and he's like, okay, all right. I guess I have a stowaway. So all of a sudden we're at the beach, and Juan is taking off his tank top and beeper to let us know
Mhm.
this is not current
Yeah,
day.
I noticed the beeper. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he tells Chiron to come into the water. So Chiron is laying in Juan's arms, and he's trying to get him to trust him. He's like, "Don't worry, I got you." And he's like trying to teach him how to swim. And according to the trivia, like Mahershala Ali literally taught him how to swim there because the actor couldn't swim.
So he literally taught him how to swim
It
in that instance.
literally taught him how to swim uh, during this portion of the filming.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it kind of felt like this really, I guess, poetic moment where it's like you are getting this person to trust you absolutely in an instant, not just as a character but as an actor. Like yeah, that he's teaching him how to swim, and there's like this whole connection with water throughout the movie anyway. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I got that vibe. It was sort of like, okay, when Little shoot pulls up to his house again, it kind of shows that we got that feeling that he's kind of found comfort in this stranger. So he doesn't know where to go. Like for whatever reason, he doesn't feel like going home in that moment. We still don't know the full details at the time they show us that scene. So he just goes to a place where he feels like he can have some peace. And then Mahershala Ali taking him to the beach, saying, "I got you, relax." It was kind of show like, okay, a bond is forming here. He's finally found something. And in my opinion, I felt like he was sort of now looking or leaning towards Juan, which is Marshall Ali's character, as like this father figure that he was missing.
yep,
That's what
yep,
I got from that.
yeah, absolutely. So Juan tells Chiron that no matter where you go on Earth, you'll find black people. That he's from Cuba, and there are a lot of black folks there, but you wouldn't be able to tell based on what you see, like in American media and all that. Like there's some sort of erasure that goes on, like in every country where black people are. Like you don't hear that part of the story. And then he tells a story about how he was running wild in Cuba.
This old lady, she stopped me. She said, running around, catching about that light. In Moonlight, black boys look blue. You blue.
Chiron asked him, "So your name is Blue?" I'm like, "No, no, no, that's not the moral of this
It was
story."
like that's what you got from Moonlight said.
Like, nah, but and it kind of speaks to what you said about like the photography of the movie. Like when they know they are like they're filming black people like exclusively, you
Hmm.
have to look at the current way things are being done when it comes to photography or cinematography, and a lot of it kind of dulls out black skin. So
Yeah.
this film they made they had a concerted effort in like we are making you look as uh I don't even know the
Vibrant
right word. Vibrant, yeah, like
as
you could
possible.
tell like
Yes,
they took great care in how the film looks,
I
especially
completely agree.
yeah.
Yeah, the cinematography, like I told you, was the first thing that popped when I started watching the movie. Like it looked great. Whatever you were watching, even some of the dark scenes and like at nighttime, I feel like they give you that, that sense of, okay, this is still the focal point of the scene.
Yeah, and the characters were never washed out. Like,
You know,
yeah,
never blended in. You
exactly.
pop, you stand out. Yeah, I agree.
All right, so they get back to Chiron's house, and he's about to knock on the door, and then Juan holds out two balled up fists and tells Chiron to pick one, and he picks one, and there's some money in it. So he's like, "Yeah, hold on to that." Chiron knocks, and Paula comes out and yanks him into the house and closes the door. No conversation, nothing. Just yanks him in. She's cleaning up her drug paraphernalia on the table, and that. I guess that's our first introduction to it.
That's our first introduction. Because that
And
whole time you gain that sense of, okay, there's something up with the mother. At first I thought maybe she's just being overprotective from the first time when he brings her son home. The second time when you now see her ushering in and I thought she was gonna go grab a belt. The Nigerian in me was thinking she's about to whoop him.
yeah, you about to
And
get it.
yeah, and then the moment she sort of, moves out this focal point of that scene, you're like, oh, now I get it, you know.
Yeah, so she's clearing the table, and there's some dude there eating, and she just tells the dude to come on, and then they go into her bedroom. Like, oh, okay, checking all the boxes. All right.
Yeah, I think it was just at that point, like they were just going to go finish what they were doing, not in front of the kid. Like so to her, that's showing shielding her son from it. When in reality, he's not stupid, you know.
No, I don't think it's just shielding. I think it's just grown folks' business. I don't think they were just. It wasn't just drugs that was about to go down there. So
I know it wasn't just drugs about
yeah,
to go down, but in that moment, I feel like she couldn't continue doing what she was doing right in front of him.
yeah,
I think
I
she
would
was
definitely
taking
hope
it.
not.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard crazy stories.
Yeah. All right. So now we're at Sharon's school, and there's some kids in a dance class dancing in front of a mirror. Just, I guess they were trying to help us wash that last scene off with just a little bit of innocence and playfulness or whatever. And then we cut away to a group of boys, and I'm going to quote them verbatim. It says, "Man, they're all the same as mine. At least mine don't look like Freddy Krueger. Yours ugly as hell. Mine don't look like no peanut." Eh, I'm like,
I
no, they
def
can't be. Like they
Yeah.
like they can't be. They no. And then
I,
Chiron walks in, and someone says, "Who let his ass in?" And then you hear the sound of a zipper. Like, okay,
I see what's going on here. I did not expect that. I'll be honest. I did not expect that. I figured this was gonna be a movie that's obviously gonna be told in phases, and I knew that kid's perspective was not gonna be that timeline was not gonna be throughout the whole movie. I thought some of any conflict or questionable material will come later on with the older um version of himself. But that took me off guard. I was surprised that was approved.
yeah. So Chiron joins the circle, and you hear his zipper as well. So apparently, according to the director, like that had nothing to do with the sexuality going forward. It was just dumb shit that
Boys being
boys,
boys.
yeah,
Mm,
because like, yeah, because like, yeah, that was just stuff that happened. And like,
okay.
okay, kind of,
I guess some kids play like that. Maybe I wouldn't know,
yeah,
but I would hope not. Either way, I felt like that scene was actually. Initially, you're right. I initially going to say that scene was unnecessary, but now that you think in hindsight, the things that transpired later on, maybe that's where that curiosity started. Number one, and number two, you remember they were calling him a certain slur when he was being chased. So I guess I have a feeling some of those shenanigans or playing that they were doing is what started giving him maybe some ideas.
Yeah,
Or what do you
we'll,
think?
we'll get into where some of the accusations start. We'll get
Okay.
into it. So Chiron is back home and he sees the TV is gone. So he's like, yo, I guess I'm not watching TV. So he boils some water on the stove and fills the bathtub with soap and creates his little bubble bath for himself. I'm like, okay, at least he's resourceful.
Yeah, you gotta be.
Yeah. So they're also letting us know they don't have like running hot water as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Juan rolls up to his corner boy from the beginning of the movie, and there's a dude complaining about the quality of the crack he bought, and he's inquiring about the refund policy. Like he's telling like, bro, ain't no refunds. What are you talking? You bought crack, ain't no refunds. What are you talking about?
I thought that was pretty.
Yeah. Then after a little chit chat, Juan sees the car hasn't left, and he's like, he's asking the corner boy like, you letting them base right here? He's like, no, I would never let that happen. So Juan walks up to the car and knocks on the window, and we see Chiron's mom and the dude she was with in the house. And then Juan goes around and pulls her out of the car. And so they're like going back and forth about like, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, so you're gonna raise my son? And he asks her like, well, are you gonna raise him? So she's like, well, are you gonna keep selling me rocks? I was like, yo, that's checkmate. Like,
That
what
is
is your
checkmate right there.
what is your comeback from that? And then she literally
She's
like
not
that shit up
wrong.
in front of him and takes a long drag and blows the smoke in his face. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's not wrong. You know what I mean? She knew what she was doing right then and there was not good. But her seeing him there, she was like, well, you cannot scold me for doing something if you're genuinely part of the problem and the supplier.
Yeah. Yeah. So she tells him, don't give me that. Well, you got to get it from somewhere because I get it from you. Like, this is not a hypothetical thing. Like, this is like, I'm your customer. Like, don't tell me that. And then she talks about the way Chiron walks. And she's like, why do you think the other boys beat him up? So that's why I was saying like the accusation was like there was something else where I don't know if she saw it or was simply projecting it onto him, but she already has her mind made up about why Chiron is teased and why she's seemingly okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next morning, Chiron shows up at Juan's house again. He sits at the dinner table and Juan tells him he can't sit with his back to the door. How you know someone is creeping up on you? So some very like OG whatever like training maybe,
Yeah.
just passing down knowledge like incidentally I guess.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Also, when he went to go answer was that I think that was the same scene where when he goes to check the door, he has a weapon in hand.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He has the
Yeah.
the blicky on him.
Yeah.
So and this whole moment like Chiron isn't talking about. He finally talks and he says that he hates his mom. And Juan says he hated his mom too, but he misses her like hell now. But like he's not gonna go further into that. Then Teresa comes back with some orange juice for both of them. And this is where we get one of those scenes where I'm just gonna clip it in.
What's a faggot?
A faggot is a word used to make gay people feel bad.
Am I a faggot?
No. No. You could be gay, but you gotta let nobody call you no faggot. I mean, unless...
How do I know?
You just do. I think.
You'll know when you know.
You gotta know right now. All right? Not yet.
And then he's trying to go further into the conversation and he looks at Teresa and she's like,
Yeah.
she just gives him like a slight nod.
Yeah, I started laughing at that part because
Yeah,
she was
that
trying to
was
go into a little bit more detail, and she's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, like,
He's not at that age yet. I
yeah,
do think in that moment, I don't know for a fact because we weren't really hinted at it if Juan knew why he was being chased and teased. But when Little asks him the question up front, he was caught off guard. You could tell. So he had, I feel like he had no idea because the question caught him off guard, in my opinion. But the way he responded, I feel like was very gentle
yeah. No,
and
absolutely,
appropriate.
it
Yeah,
was, and of course, with the help of Teresa, she was like, "Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to like, you don't have to give him all the answers right now." And she was like, "Yeah, you don't even have to make up your mind right now. You don't
to
even have
not
to,
today. You don't have
yeah,
to
like,
answer today.
yeah."
Yeah,
So then eventually, he asks, he asks him, "Do you sell drugs?" And Juan is like, "When did this become an interrogation?" He looks at Teresa and is like, "Yeah." And said, "And my mama, she do drugs, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then uh, Sharon gets up and leaves.
and leaves.
Yeah, no, well, he first of all, he's sort of like putting two and two together. Then
Yeah,
he gets up and leaves, and Juan is a bit shaken. Teresa reaches across the table to comfort him.
yeah. He started
And
crying. You could tell
yeah,
in that
yeah,
moment that he felt ashamed and knew. It's like he already knew was part of the problem when Teresa, the mother, right? She approached him and questioned him, and he was trying to scold her like, "You should be a better mom. You should be a better this." And she was looking at him like, "You're part of the reason the way I am. You
yeah,
supply what is so unquote the problem." So in that moment, when Little gets up and walks away, he literally starts shedding a tear because it's like that realization, like, damn, I never used. I don't know how to explain it, but he had already built this bond with this kid and he felt like he broke that trust, like he disappointed him, more like a father figure, because I'm pretty sure he knew, in my opinion, that Little looked up to him as a father figure.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
All right, so now we're in what looks and sounds like a high school class because they're saying the full meaning of DNA. Like
Hmm.
you could have just said DNA, like deoxyribonucleic acid, or whatever. Like,
I never even knew that's what it meant. It could have called me DNA is DNA.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like they're making sure we know off the rip that this is a science
Eh,
class, okay?
yes, yeah,
It's not math, it's not government, it's
no.
science. And we see this dude who's just all we can tell is that the dude is just looking longingly at what we
Hmm.
don't know, but there's just definite thirst there. And then another kid starts picking on him in the middle of class, and then he's like, "Oh, it looks like Little is having woman problems." And then that kid gets sent out of class. So now we know the thirsty kid is Little. That's Chiron. And class is over, and the bully bumps into him, telling him he'll be waiting for him. So Chiron is basically trapped, peeping out of a window at the group, and at the group that wants to jump him. And in comes Kevin, uh, the one that he met earlier, wondering why Chiron is still here after since school ended a while ago. So they're basically letting us know that this kid has been waiting. He has been waiting behind for a long time. And Sharon asked him the same thing, like, "Yeah, what are you doing here?" And like, "Oh, that he had detention because he was caught with a chick," and goes into very explicit detail about how he was getting domed, and then the chick just started asking for more, and then a teacher walks in and basically just the bragging essentially. So Sharon basically asked him the same question, and he says he had detention because he got caught with a chick who was giving him dome, and he basically goes into a lot of detail about how things escalated, and he goes like very explicit detail, and he's like, and but he ends it with saying, this stays between me and you, right? Because I know you can keep a secret, and I was like, is there something like we're not seeing, or that they know already, or is it an
Yeah,
assumption? All right, so then we get the title card, part 2, Chiron. So Chiron goes home, and when he walks in, his mom tells him that he can't be there tonight, that she has company coming over, so he has to find somewhere else to be. Uh, and next thing we see him eating at Teresa's place,
Hmm.
and after food, he's like trying to make his bed, and she's like that he's doing the same thing Juan used to do, that doing a poor job of making the bed so that Teresa will do it. And she's saying it like lovingly, and she's like, yeah, he knows that he can stay there whenever he wants. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh
At
yeah,
that
you
point,
and
at that point, I noticed she was talking about him in past tense. I caught on to that.
yeah, yeah. She said you and Juan were thick as thieves, and like were like okay,
Yeah, I was like, I don't like where this going. I don't
yeah.
like where this going.
Uh, so next thing we see Chiron walk in the dark, and then we hear someone moaning, and he keeps walking, and then he sees Kev and a chick having sex, and Kev looks at him and like, "You good, Black?" And then he wakes up. I'm like, "Oh, so he was having a
A
dream
dream.
about
Because
Kev and someone
yeah,
else."
I'm over
And
here thinking maybe like he invited Kevin over there, behind Teresa's back, and then Kevin is doing something with Shorty. I was
yeah,
surprised it was a dream. I wouldn't have guessed.
so the thing that stuck out to me about that also was
Yeah,
they didn't even bother showing us the girl's face, because in that dream the girl didn't matter
she didn't matter at all.
at all. So I was like, "Oh, okay, you are just looking at Kev. Like your eyes were only on him." So they
Your
didn't. I'm like,
mind is focused on that.
yeah, exactly. So then, all right, he wakes up. So Chiron is walking home, and he runs into his mom, and she asks Chiron to let her in, and because she doesn't have her keys, and they get to the door, and she just pushes the door in. I was like, wait, I thought you said. And then she's just pacing up and down, and now she's asking Chiron for money. He's like, where would I get money from? Like, oh, I know Teresa gives you some. I'm your mother. It's like I know her like a pimp knows something, like just some weird analogies about
Some
like
weird exchange.
yeah, and then
The the part I didn't get apart about that scene was why was she asking him to open the door if
yeah,
that's where they live? That made no sense to me.
yeah, I think she was just like out of it, like
Oh, okay, she was not
yeah,
mentally there. Maybe she lost the
yeah,
keys or whatever it was, but yeah, it didn't make any sense to
yeah. I think she was just cracked out at that point. So
me.
she reaches, so she's like digging into his pockets trying to get the money, and it's like okay, fine, fine, and he pulled out the money and gives it to her, and she's like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, like, basically remember that it's just me and you. I'm your mother, not Teresa, and all that. And Sharon's just like, oh, whatever. And he's he's trying to go upstairs. Like, you're late. You're late for school. Like, don't even bother cleaning up. Just go straight to school. Like, bro, you can tell time in this state. Like,
It,
what is
not just not just even tell time. Like your priorities are all out of whack. You damn near
hmm
fought them over money just so you can go, get another supply to get high off of. But then you tell
Yeah,
them, oh, go, but you need to be responsible and go to school. And in my head, I'm like, who are you to be giving or saying any sort of advice?
yeah. So Sharon is walking home after school, and his bullies roll up on him, and they're saying all kinds of foul things, like including what Paula, his mom, would do for crack. And I was like, bruh, it's
Kids are
something.
vicious.
I was like, Sharon, something's gonna have to be done, bruh.
I ain't
Like,
gonna lie. Like,
I was
look,
like,
I'm gonna
yeah,
have to take that ass whooping, but at least it's
yeah.
gonna happen.
So he's so because they were asking like where are you going? Like he's like going home. He's like, no, your house is the other way. Like they even know where he lives. And
It
so
gives up. It shows that there's a pattern of abuse that's been continuing at that point. Yeah.
yeah, so he's just like at that point they're telling him like, oh, you better not even move from this spot. I'm like, damn, like you just gonna let this happen, bro? So now we see Sharon. He's basically riding the metro rail, trying to avoid going home,
Mhm.
and he's like going back and forth. He's even like falling asleep at a train station, and then he eventually he walks towards the beach. And while he's just sitting there staring at the water, Kev walks up to him and asks him what he's doing there. And like Sharon is like, bro, what are you doing here? Like you keep asking me these questions. Like, what are you doing here? and he tells Sharon that this is smoking habitat. I'm like, okay. Then they have a little back and forth about why he calls him Black. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just a nickname. It's like, who goes around giving another man nickname or
Yeah.
whatever? It's like, I was like, okay, is there animosity there that we're not, or is he just like misdirecting his anger at someone else where he could have been aggressive elsewhere?
I feel like at that time, in my opinion, Black was starting to Sharon was starting to fish, as in, okay, you give me these nicknames, you're always telling me these explicit stories about your sex life. When we're younger, we used to play this weird game. In my head, I feel like at that point he's already questioning himself. Like we kind of got an idea of it, when he asks one at the table when he was younger. But at this point, he's starting to like question, like, why he was doing this thing to his knee. So I feel like he was fishing, in my opinion,
All
for
right.
more information.
Okay. All right. So after the little back and forth, Kev said he likes the water, uh, but he's going to introduce Chiron to some fire. Then he seems very impressed by how comfortable Chiron is with smoking. And Chiron says his mom leaves a lot of stuff lying around.
Yeah.
So there's this look of recognition, like, yeah, she's a real smoker, like not
And there's
not
that.
this play stuff.
Nope. And there's that like not that's that confirmation that as a curious kid, he's being curious and tried, what my mom is so obsessed about or what she's so caught up on. I feel like, that's them confirming that, he's done it a few times himself.
Yeah. So then they start to bond over the ocean breeze and how it makes them feel, and things that make them cry. And well, that kind of turns into something else.
Yeah.
It's I would I mean, it's for them, I would say the best way to describe it the best way to describe it is uh when the Jerome, the actor who plays Kev at this
Kevin.
age,
Yep.
he asked the director, at this point, is it that Chiron has never kissed a boy before, or he has never kissed anybody? And they told Jerome that he should proceed as if Chiron had never kissed anybody before. So that's why there was this sort of, it was very obvious who was taking the lead in how physical they were together and all that.
Okay. I didn't know
And
that part.
yeah, so it's like it was very much so like experience versus inexperience. The person
Yes.
who's bragging a lot and sort of guiding this person through, and the fact that he was doing all this bragging before sort of like almost made him feel like it was okay to go along with it, because like, okay, if this quote unquote ladies man is doing all this, then
Yeah.
I should be good. I shouldn't feel some type of way.
Mm.
And then when they're, so then at the end, I'll just say the end as a polite way of saying it. Chiron is apologizing to Kev, and Kev is like, "Nah, you don't gotta apologize." And then he sort of wipes his hand in the sand, and like to sort of mark the end of that scene. And then Kevin is driving him home, and they're sitting in the car, and he asks if he's ever done anything like that before, and Chiron says no. So that's sort of our confirmation that like that was his
Yeah.
first time doing anything.
Yeah.
And
The way
they
the way the scene was shot, like you said, it definitely showed. For one, when they cut to the scenes, Act Two, Act Two of Black, which is Sharon's character. I'm not sure if I'm sure you know this because you always catch on to things like that, like me. Act One, he was called Little. Act Two, he was called Black.
No, Chiron.
No, it's Chiron, and Act
Mhm.
Three is called
Black.
Yeah. So in Act Two, you see Kevin bragging about being a ladies' man, doing this, that, and the third. So you can tell like he's this actively sexual person. So when that scene happens with him and Kevin and Sharon, you could tell that he was definitely the lead. Like you mentioned, he was the one taking the lead. He was the one showing him this new experience, this new part of his life. The part that I didn't understand or get was that, if Kevin has done something like that before with a man or not. We don't really get that confirmation. But then he asked him in the car, have you done something like that before? He says no. And in my head, it's like confirmation that Kevin has done that before with both parties. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I got from it, anyways.
And then they say their goodbyes, and Chiron walks into the house, and it looks like more furniture is gone. He puts a blanket on his mom, and she's sort of like in and out of sleep, and she's like, "I'm your only, and you're my only." Sort of like trying to keep that little connection there. And I
A
don't even know
little,
if it's necessarily connection or more so guilt, but it's just sort of like you're stuck with me, so whatever I say goes and all that. So
the
basically
first thing
an
she
unhealthy
said,
dynamic.
yeah, the
Hmm.
first thing she actually said when he puts the blanket on her about to walk away is, "You don't love me no more." So
Yeah.
that's sort of her like saying, like, I know, I'm this terrible person, but you like, I feel like she says it because she sees the way he looks at her.
I don't even see it as
Mm,
admission of I'm a terrible person. Just like putting the blame on him of
mm.
you don't love me. Not that I'm not worthy of love anymore. It's just you don't
It's just
love
that
me.
you don't love me anymore.
Yeah.
You've
So
lost
now,
you've lost
yeah,
that
you
respect for me.
exactly. So the next day they're in the cafeteria, and Chiron is looking for a place to sit. He spots Kev, but before he can walk over, Terrell, his bully, sits down with Kev, and they start reminiscing about a game called Knockdown Stay Down, where Terrell basically points out someone and Kev punches the person, but whatever, like, but Terrell takes the heat for it. So basically, like, whether you get in trouble or a fight starts,
Yeah,
Kev
I'll
starts
go
it,
down for
Terrell
it.
takes over, yeah,
Hmm.
and they quote unquote agree to start that game up again. So a bunch of kids are like standing outside, and Terrell just walking around menacingly, like in a circle, big ass circle. Everybody's wondering like, oh, who's it gonna be? And of course, Terrell tells Kevin to punch Chiron, and everyone's just like, Chiron said, wait, what? Like, how did I get into this? He then Kevin punches him, but he doesn't drop, so he punches him again, and Kev is telling him to stay down,
Stay down.
but Chiron stands up again, and Kev punches him a third time. Chiron drops, and the bullies even push Kev out the way, and they stomp the shit
They
out of him.
all they go in
They
on them.
they stomp. They
They
like they were
whooped
trying to,
them bad.
yeah, they were trying to kill 1,000 cockroaches. They
Yeah.
they stomped them.
What I got from that part is Sharon. Um, when he gets picked and Kevin is the one to do it, and Kevin is obviously conflicted. This is his friend. He likes this person, and he punches him once. He's hoping it's just that one punch. And to me, the look Sharon gives is like, I want you to look me in the eye and punch me because you need to realize who you're doing this to. I'm not just not any person. Because if it was anybody, I feel like if it was anybody else, what the director was trying to depict was that, Sharon probably would have stayed down, maybe ran, whatever it is. But because it was Kevin, it's like, look, you're my friend, like you're my only friend per se, sort of. That's what it was. It didn't seem with anybody else, really. It's like, if you're gonna do this to me, I want you to look me in the eye and do it. That's why he didn't stay down. Not because he was being mentally tough, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there was also some drama on Kevin's part as well. He's also like trying to beseech him to stay down while also
Hmm.
maintaining his public persona.
Yes.
So there's a lot of
As this
conflict
ladies'
at
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of conflict at play there.
Yeah.
So like I said, they stomped him out, and eventually a security guard shows up, and everybody scatters, and now we have Chiron in the principal's office looking torn up. Like he looks like he went 9 rounds with a heavyweight boxer.
With Tyson. I said, nah,
Bruh,
you did go, nah. One round
he
with Tyson is
nah,
enough to
he'd
do
be
that
dead.
to
Nah.
you.
So the principal is trying to convince him to press charges, and she calls him a boy. He's like, I'm not a boy. He's like, if you were a man, there'd be 4 other people sitting here with you. And then he starts crying, and now she's trying to comfort him, like, like, bruh, like you can't be like trying to guilt the person that.
That is the victim.
Yeah. So then she's like, I mean, I didn't mean to put this on you, or whatever. It's already too
And she
late. Like
said, you think you're the first,
he,
something like that, right? She,
yeah,
if I'm not
and then
mistaken.
like yeah, her voice kind of like gets muted a bit, but you can read her lips. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm here if you need to talk." He's like, "Forget that." So he goes home, and like we now see like the ice filled in the sink, and he's like, I guess like numbing his face or whatever,
Yeah,
trying to heal himself essentially.
yeah,
And then we see like that mirror shot of him like, okay, at least some of the swelling has gone down, only some of it.
right.
The next day, Sharon is walking through the school menacingly, and first things first, I thought he had something in that book bag.
You
That's what
did?
was
Oh,
worrying me. That's what, because everybody's looking at him shocked or whatever. Well, I think it was more so about how jacked up his face looked.
mhm.
So he's like,
I
like,
didn't notice. I didn't think about the backpack. I didn't think he had anything in the backpack, just because I feel like that wasn't his character. That would have been out of character for him. But he had a menacing look about him, like something is. You knew something was about to go down.
and the way they shot it, like there was a lot of tension building up with like as he went through each door, like you're seeing like
People,
okay,
people
yeah,
looking at him, and he's not even focusing on them. You're like, he had a mission.
yeah,
He was tunnel vision at something.
yeah. So
Yeah.
eventually he gets to class and he puts down his backpack. I was like, okay, so when he put it down and went somewhere else, I'm like, okay, at least at least there's no gunplay or anything.
Yeah.
And then he picks up a chair and he breaks it over Terrell's back.
Ooh,
And I was like, wow. First of all, second of all, Terrell didn't even move. Like he was out.
he was
Like
done.
yeah, like no twitching, nothing. He was just. I like, oh damn, did he kill him? Like that was
What
then my next thought.
what popped in my head was
Uh,
what Kevin told him in Act One. You know,
yeah, don't
you
let him
have
pick you
to
up.
not don't
Yeah,
let him pick on you.
but if
And
that was the case, it would have happened
yeah,
a lot sooner, though. I
yeah.
feel.
But my thing was that he still was always timid. They didn't let us see him stand for himself after that conversation with Kevin in Act One. That he eventually stands for himself. But that immediately was what I got. It was like, you've been picking on you ever since that date, that time. It's still happening. So in order for it to stop happening, you have to stand up for yourself. And I feel like that was the tipping point. That was the
Yeah,
beginning of
absolutely.
his villain arc.
Yeah. So the teacher and other students subdue him, and cops eventually take him away. Yeah. So cops take him away, and Kevin is watching as they put him in the cop car, and then we cut to Trevante Rhodes waking up from a nightmare. Sort of like a scene where Chiron's mom is sort of like yelling at him and then walking away. That scene is played in reverse. So instead of her walking away, it's her walking backwards
Walking
and
in.
then yelling at
Mm,
him, and that's what wakes him up.
okay.
So I guess that's their introduction to us. Like, okay, this is Chiron.
Yeah.
So now he's driving around in something that looks like Juan's car, but I guess eventually find out that's not. So it's his own version, and he sees some dudes in an alley, and he just has his gun in his hand. And I'm like, what? Are we finally about to get some gunplay? Like, what exactly is going on here? He's just sitting there watching.
Yeah. I think that that part I knew what it was. I knew he was essentially now becoming Juan. That was the full circle. I already figured it out. Just because, like I said, the beginning of his villain arc was when he broke that chair on the bully's back. I'm like, this is what is gonna start that new phase for.
Yeah. So now he's driving around with he picks up some guy and he's driving around and they're talking about like, oh yeah, where the hoes at? And he's like, well, you tell me where the hoes at. And like there's some girl named Aphrodisia, but she only comes out at night. Like, okay. Like what? Like it almost feels like it was something that was made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Like when you're caught lying or whatever, and then we see the title card, Part Three, Black.
Mm.
So Black pulls up again. Like I guess that's his one of his corner boys. So he pulls up to his crib, and now they're having what seems to be like a difference of opinion on counting money, or at least on the count.
Mhm.
And they're like going back and forth, and then eventually he tells him out he's just messing with him, that the count is good. Like if you want to be on the corner, you got to be uh, ready for people to mess with you. And that's basically like almost his own version of what Kev told him. Like can't let
Yeah.
people think you're soft.
You can't.
Yeah, so uh, Black is woken up by a phone call from Paula, but he doesn't pick up. And then we get a montage of him working out while the voicemail plays, and she's like asking him to come visit when he can. And he's doing a lot of jailhouse like type workouts.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
and
You could
and they're
tell.
trying to explain to us how he went from that scrawny kid to this muscular
Yeah,
dude.
that was the part I wanted to point out. Like the moment
Yeah,
you see Black in Act Three, um, you knew this is a different person. That's how I was saying. Like you knew like this is a different version. Remember now he has the gold teeth.
yeah, the go
You know
front. Yep.
the gold fronts. He got the do rag on. He is built. If I'm not mistaken, he's also has like earrings and like maybe some sort of chain going
Chains. Yep.
on. Yeah, so that's the beginning of his villain arc, and not beginning, but that was like his transition to what his new version of himself. Yeah.
Yeah. So while he's in bed, he gets another phone call, and he starts talking as if it's his mom, and then we hear that it's actually Kevin, and they start reminiscing, start giving life updates, and then that's where we hear that Chiron is in Atlanta, actually, and no longer in Miami. Kev is a cook now, and he tells him, "Look me up when you're in town." And from what they showed us, the first time we see Black as an adult to now, it's like Chiron, he's like almost sort of regressed. He's now a little bit nervous, unsure of himself, sort of deferring to Kevin and all that.
Yeah,
And
like
and then
I
yeah,
agree
so
because in Act Three, all you see from Act Three is just tough,
yeah,
straight. I'm a this, even when he goes and check on his corner boy, and he presses the guy's scared and whatever. Is like, I'm just messing with you. You could
yeah,
tell once again, he went from being bullied to being the bully as well.
yeah.
And the moment he gets that gets that phone call from Kev, you could see he just regressed. Like the Sharon, the little part of him came
Hmm.
out, like unsure, nervous, ran out of words, out of what I mean, sort of, so that's where you get that like, okay, he's either he's just now been putting on a front this whole time, this tough persona, or he really was now vulnerable and caught off guard by Kevin.
Yeah. So the next morning, uh, Sharon wakes up. I'm like, did this nigga just have a wet dream? What the hell? Because he's like touching his boxes. I'm like, all because of this dude? Like, what just happened? Like, I was like,
Yes,
okay,
dude.
I'm like, okay, I guess we know where those thoughts went. Like, okay,
Yes,
like,
yes, and this was right the day after the phone call, so
yeah.
you could tell. Yeah.
So then we see Sharon goes to visit his mom in some kind of treatment facility, and they're having a heart to heart about everything they've been through. She's asking if he's still in the streets, and he stands up to leave. Like, I ain't got to deal with this
I ain't
conversation
gotta
right
listen
now.
to you.
Yeah.
Who are you?
And then she stops him. Then she says she loves him, and it's okay if he doesn't love her. So that's what I was saying. Like that conversation before, where she's like that he doesn't love her. At like that point, it was probably out of guilt, but now it's probably out of understanding because in this in this facility, she's actually one of the counselors now. Like
Hmm.
so, she has been there for so long that she's one of the counselors.
Yeah, that she's not
Probably
leaving because he asks her, when are you leaving? She's like, leaving. She's like, this place is helping me. It's sort of like saved me, and now they let me work here. So it's she can do some good from where she's at. So that's when
right.
we kind of, because I initially thought she was in prison.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was in prison because you see a visiting card, you
Yeah.
see what looked like a yard, but no, minimum. security
like
prison.
minimum security. Okay.
Yeah, like a minimum security prison. So I thought she must have done something and she really got caught up, like especially with like the drugs and stuff. I did
Yeah.
not think it was a rehab facility.
Yeah. So after she says it's okay if he doesn't love her. She tells him that she didn't love him when he needed it. So then she's like trying to light a cigarette and she fails. So he helps her light it. Funny thing is, again, in one of the trivia notes, she's not a smoker. So she was literally having a hard time doing that. So the director whispered over to Trevante to like, he's like, light it for her. Like,
So that was not planned.
no, that was not planned. So he just reaches over and lights a
Wow.
cigarette for her and like gives it back to her. So it's like just
Oh,
something
script.
like
I had no
like
idea.
like an act of service in that moment, sort of like showing us that they're reconnecting. Because like
Yeah,
after that, then they hug
he
and
starts crying. I think he was crying when he lit the cigarette. He
yeah,
was already
but
crying.
she like reaches over and like
Yeah, she had to
her,
really apologize and say like, look, I know I wasn't a great mom. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. And it's like the first real, well, from what we see, is the first real acceptance of her responsibility for how he is his upbringing,
right,
how she's responsible for not being a great mom, and that her actions directly affected him as well.
absolutely,
And
yeah. So after what looks like a long drive, he gets out of his car and he starts freshening up, brushing his hair and all that, and then he walks into a diner and sits at a counter, and we see that it's Kevin's diner. So he drove from Atlanta back down to Miami.
I knew immediately when he parked it was Kevin. He was gonna go see
Yeah.
it. I
So
immediately knew because at first this the scene when it's the open road, I'm like, did this dude up and move to Cuba? Because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I felt like he was on some one type of ish where he moved to Cuba. But the moment he parks and he's adjusting himself, if you remember,
yeah, he's
he's
like
brushing his hair,
brushing hair. Yeah.
puts on a fresh tee, looks in the mirror. I'm like, he went to go see Kevin.
Uh. So yeah. So they dap up, and Kevin's like telling him like, "Oh, you want to order food? You could order on the menu, or you could order the chef special."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm gonna get chef special," and Kevin like basically like cooks like a full course meal for him. And part of what the director also said is that in every act we see food being prepared for Sharon.
How
So it's
come?
like in the first part we see uh Juan
Janelle
and
Monae.
Teresa, yeah, Juan and Teresa giving food. Second act we see just Teresa giving food, and then here we see Kevin giving him food because
Well,
they're all extensions of like expressions of love essentially
okay.
in
Okay. I did
different
not catch
forms.
on to that.
Yeah. So he mentioned that. So he said it in two forms, like in like back in the neighborhood, like even no matter how bad things were, you were always going to be fed. And the
That's true.
point here with Kev is that they said you don't see in cinema a lot where a guy cooks for another guy as an expression of love. So like they're
That's
trying
true.
to show like in this instance that this was that
An
expression. Like
expression.
even though they weren't sure where they were with things, but it's just like I'm still going to do this for you, especially because it's something that I'm good at now or whatever.
Which then speaks volume to the lack thereof food being prepared for him by his mom.
Exactly. Like it's
Yeah.
he's getting that sustenance everywhere else but home.
But home. Yeah.
Yeah. So eventually Kevin meant they're talking and then Kevin mentions, "Oh, you remember Finance Samantha from back in the day?" And then he's like, "Yeah." And then he shows Black a picture of a kid. Say, "Yeah, that's Kevin Jr." And then he's like, Black's like, "Oh." So I sort of
Yeah, I
thinking
was
like,
like,
"Oh, okay, I guess
oh,
that means that's cut off."
yeah, because you could see the expression in his face changed
Yeah.
because essentially he was thinking, I'm about to reconnect, with my long lost whatever, whatever. But then the moment the picture of the kid showed up, I was like, oh, my man
That's
really
it.
was just experimenting or whatever it was. And then he finally settled down and got married. That's what I got.
Yeah. And they talk about, oh well, they're co-parenting essentially. But nothing beyond that. And it's basically they're asking for a bit more information about what each other have been up to. So he's like pressing Black on what he's been up to, and then he eventually tells Kevin that he's trapping. That when he got sent to juvie, he met up with some people who who put him on after he got out, and then he rose up the ranks, and he's like, "It is what it is." And Kevin isn't trying to hear like, "Man, it's like, what do you mean it is what it is? That ain't you."
That's not you.
And what Chiron says, "Man, you don't know me. At least this
And
version of
Kevin
me." Like,
says,
and it's like he says, "I don't know you." It's like, and then in that moment, like we hear like a ding, and there's a customer at the register. He gets up and he goes to go take care of that, and then he comes back to the seat, and then Black asks Kevin like, "Okay, so why did you call me?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, a dude walks in." Like, "Yeah, I've heard that already." And it's like,
why
"Oh,
did
that
you really call me?
yeah." It's like a dude came in and played a song that reminded him of Chiron, and they played a song, and it's one of those old school songs that is like, oh, they make love sound very simple and all that. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah. You could tell it
and
was like a song about a loved one, like a expression of love to someone else, like a partner.
you're
So
right.
when Kevin plays that song, Sharon understands to like, okay, that song, if that song reminded me of him, so Kevin did call me because of some sentimental reason. I think that's where it was the realization.
Right. And at that point, so the final question is like, so where you gonna stay tonight? And then now Sharon is driving Kevin home, and they're having a little banter about how he would have gotten home or how he gets to work, talking about either the bus or the jitney or whatever. Just going over like, oh well, now you don't got to take the bus no more, or whatever. At least for not for tonight.
Hmm.
So they're walking to the apartment, and we sort of get the same view as where they sat on the beach that
Yes,
night. And I don't
I
know if it's
noticed that.
identical, but it's very similar.
It's very eerily similar. I noticed that.
Yeah. So I
The
mean,
first
it
thing
could
that
just
came
be
to my
set
head
design.
though, which is kind of weird, I was like, ain't no beaches in Atlanta, but then I realized he wasn't in
Yeah, he
Atlanta.
he was in Atlanta.
He drove to
Yeah,
wherever Kevin was at.
yeah. So he's like, oh, they walk into the house, and he's like, oh, Kevin says he's gonna go change out of his work clothes, and they're basically it's more memory lane stuff, like uh, and they asked him, you remember the last time I saw you? Like Kevin asked Black, and Black was like, I tried to forget. I was like, damn, like
Traumatic.
yeah, it's like because it's like he couldn't like keep that idea in his head and go after this new persona that he had
That's
taken
true.
on. And so it's like those to him, those two things couldn't coexist.
Hmm.
And then like I would say there was a lot less action in part three, and it's
Part
more
three.
emotive. Like there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of vulnerability being displayed.
Uncertainty. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he tells him that you're the only man who's ever touched me, and I haven't really touched anyone since. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, is
Hmm.
this about to be a sex scene?
Yeah.
And
In that moment, I also thought the question that I didn't have answered was, did he mean in general, or was he talking about a man? Because he said Sharon responds was like, you're the only man that has
who's
ever
ever touched?
touched me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, something like that. So I'm trying to, and then I got remembered of the scene where he had a wet dream. So I'm like, okay, does this guy just refrain completely from sexual activities and he just quote unquote lies or misleads other people when they ask him about females, right? Or
Mm.
did he really just never hasn't ever been with anybody else? That was kind of the question that I was debating because I wasn't sure. I mean, I don't want to say like it's not relevant to the movie, but that's pretty much the premise of the movie. He's fighting the sexuality and trying to understand himself, right? Or part of
Yeah,
the premise. Yeah.
yeah. So like they I think they left that part intentionally vague.
Mm,
Yeah, just
okay.
so like
Open to
so
interpretation.
yeah, because again, that guy that gets in the car and they're talking about where the hole's at and all. So I'm guessing they've had
That's
that
my
kind of
point.
banter before. I'm guessing they've
Yeah,
had that
but
kind
then
of banter, and it must have led to something for because again, if that's the dude that he presses on stuff, he's
mhm.
the one that's coming to ask him where the hole is. So I feel like they've already had either discussions like that or experiences with
Oh, it could just be in his brain. He's brought females around, but still try to keep up that persona. Think about it, right?
yeah.
Because
So
now
it
he's this big, tough drug dealer guy. So in order to keep like those questions at bay from other people, because right, he used to be called the F word when he was younger. He used to
Uh,
be looked at as this homosexual. So to keep up that image, what if he just does what appears to people as someone a heterosexual male would do? Because you don't actually see him with any females.
yeah,
You
yeah. I
don't.
mean, we really only see him like in a day and a half, really. So we don't like get a good look into
Yeah,
his
that's
life
true.
anyway.
But ain't
So
nobody call him. He ain't call no other female. There is no physical interaction with a female of interest, like as a love interest. None of that is introduced.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so after he says that he hasn't really touched anyone since, then we see Sharon and Kevin sort of cuddling and end of the movie, and I thought that that was they weren't going overt with like the sexuality at the end,
Yes.
but there was
It was
affection.
implied.
Yeah, there was affection. There was vulnerability. There was. It felt like the appropriate response, the appropriate conclusion to the story, especially
Mhm.
because you can't just expect like Sharon to drop the entire facade immediately the moment someone like snaps their finger. So it's like, yeah, it shows like
Yeah. Like
they
they
had
just
that
sort of
connection.
okay. That
Yeah,
connection that could is just gonna now gradually possibly lead to something else. And
yeah,
that's the other part that I felt like was open to interpretation, right? Because the scene ends there. They want you to envision or kind of like how certain other movies will leave the ending open ended. So, not too open ended, but it's just implied that okay, this could have been to be something beginning of something new where they now build this one thing that they've always had at the back of their mind. That's what I sort of got from that end scene. The other part is how his life was split into different acts. I like that, you know, with three different actors playing him. You see what he goes through as, I don't know, 10-year old. You see him as a young adult, as a teenager, and you see him in his mid 20s. So they tell you the story of this guy's life from three perspectives. And for it to end there gives that open interpretation to, okay, let the audience imagine what the future is like.
yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into some trivia real quick. Uh, Man, and some of it is really unbelievable. So, Naomi Harris, who plays Paula, had to shoot her entire role in the movie in 3 days, in between her promotional tour for Spectre. That was the James Bond movie that came out in 2015, and due to a visa problem because she's British, so she only had a 3 day window
3-day window to shoot all her scenes.
because I guess she was doing part of the promotional tour in America. So
Wow.
for Spectre, and the
Okay.
scene spanned 15 years in the character's life, and they were filmed out of sequence. So it was like whatever we had available, she's shooting that for that
She's
day.
shooting that for that day, and they get
Yeah,
those characters and make sure to shoot it for that
yeah,
day. Oh
hmm
wow, I had no idea.
yeah. In an interview, Barry Jenkins said that the three actors who play Chiron never met during production. So he said he
Makes
wanted
sense.
each of them to build their own persona of Chiron during their respective segments with no
That
influence
that
from the other portrayals.
that part I can understand. I can see because all three play the same exact character, so there isn't necessarily a need for them to meet because every time you're shooting, the other two characters won't be there unless you're making a multiverse movie.
Uh, no, but it's saying
But
like they weren't even on set.
yeah, they will never.
Yeah,
I get
yeah. So
that.
they
I
never
believe
even
that.
watched. And then they said
But
the
if
same technique was
they
used.
probably met after the post production, I would
Yeah,
hope
post
so.
production. Yeah, post production.
Mm,
Yeah, it said the same technique was used with the actors who played Kevin.
mm, okay.
Uh, Also, Trevante initially auditioned for the role of the grown-up Kevin, and Barry Jenkins just had one note, like he's like, no, not Kevin, Chiron. So he didn't say it out loud, like he just passed it over to the people who were watching the audition,
Okay.
and it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
not Kevin, Chiron.
there's no way I can see him playing. Because one thing that me and that I noticed during this filming all three characters looked like the other versions of themselves. They did a great job at the casting. If I'm being honest, from Little, Sharon and Black, and Kevin 1, 2, and 3, they looked like they could be those versions as they were growing up. So Trevante, which is the eldest version of Sharon, right? I cannot see him playing Kevin. I can't.
Yeah, but
Just
remember,
from
it hadn't
like,
been. Remember, the other roles hadn't been casted yet, so there was not
oh,
there was nothing to compare to at that point.
gotcha.
So I guess it was more
Okay.
like mannerisms and personalities that they realized, like, no, this
Oh,
this
okay.
should
So
be
they
black.
casted the older version first and then probably worked
Or
backward.
work away with
Okay,
exactly.
that makes sense.
So let's go to our accolades, and yeah, this is. I don't want to say it's the best movie we've done, but it's the most awarded movie we've done so far. It was nominated for 8 Oscars.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nominated for 8 Oscars, and let me read
For
them.
for such a small movie, that is an actually just overachievement. That's
So remember
amazing.
what we said about the picture quality and all that. So it was actually
Yes,
nominated for film editing.
it had to be.
Joy McMillan, she was the first African American woman to be nominated for film editing, and was also nominated for cinematography. So like all you're seeing with like the picture quality, the
Yeah,
way
the
skin
way
tones
the
are
films were
captured.
seen,
Yeah,
that was
so they were
beautiful,
nominated as
dude.
well.
That stood out. That was beautiful.
Barry Jenkins got nominated for directing. They got a nomination for best original score,
What does that
and
mean?
like the instrumental music that was,
Okay,
yeah, like,
that was composed.
yeah, that was composed for it. And then Naomi Harris was nominated for best actress in a supporting role.
She killed it.
Yeah, she was
She was
nominated
very convincing. And it's still surprising to me that she did all that in 3 days.
3 days.
But she was very convincing in her acting. Like you felt like what you were seeing was real. It was
And
gripping.
it's funny, they had to convince her because she said she didn't want to play a crackhead in the movie, but they made it known to her that it wasn't like a tertiary character where you're just a crackhead walking on the street,
Yeah.
and I said like there was depth to the character, and like and there was some redemption as well.
And if we're being accurate, she's the only character that appears in all three acts, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
She
correct.
appears in all three acts.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Janelle Monae doesn't appear in the third act.
She
She
does
appeared
not
in the
appear in the
first two.
third act.
Yeah, she
Exactly.
appears in the first two.
Yeah.
So Barry Jenkins and Terrell Alvin McCraney won Best Adapted Screenplay. So that's screenplay that's not original, adapted from another piece of work.
Some
Mahershala
originality.
Ali, yeah, Mahershala Ali won his Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and he was only in the film for 20 minutes.
Did you say he won?
Yeah, he won for Best
He won.
Supporting
He
Actor.
won. He won an Oscar for that.
Yep,
Wow,
yep,
that is actually impressive. He won an Oscar for that.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
During the movie, I was extremely upset when I found out he was dead because I personally like Mahershala Ali as an actor. I think he is outstanding in my opinion, and the little airtime he got me upset because I enjoy watching him as an actor.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then finally, of course, the movie won Best Picture, and
Okay.
uh, let me read this because I don't know, to the people who actually watched the Oscars that year, where Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway were announcing the winners, and
Hmm.
apparently we didn't know what the mix-up was, but they announced La La Land, and then when the producers of La La Land came on stage, they got the envelope and they were like, "No, guys, we didn't win. Moonlight won Best Picture," and everyone's looking around like, "Wait, what is going on?"
I
Like,
remember going to go watch the scene because I remember you had mentioned it to me when we knew we were going to review this movie, and I was in shock that actually happened.
yeah. So then we got a statement from PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers,
Okay.
and they're the accounting firm responsible for tabulating the results, preparing award envelopes, and handing them to presenters. So they apologized and it said, We sincerely apologize to Moonlight, La La Land, Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway, and Oscar viewers for the error that was made during the award announcement for Best Picture. The presenters had mistakenly been given the wrong category envelope, and when discovered, was immediately corrected. We are currently
So
investigating how this could have happened and deeply regret that this occurred.
so La La Land won something.
Yes, yes,
Okay, that's
yes,
what to say.
yes,
Because for their
they,
names to have been in the envelope, they must have
yes,
won for something
yes,
else.
they
Okay.
don't know La La Land. No,
I still haven't
That's
seen
why
La La
everybody.
Land.
Uh,
It's not doesn't I don't even know who's in it or anything like that. That's the point.
Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling.
Wait, okay. I like those two people. I
Yeah,
like those two people. I'm gonna watch that. But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
that's a big no-no though. I feel like that's such a huge mess up. Like it's embarrassing to a party that goes up thinking they won. It's embarrassing to the person that has to
it's
announce
embarrassing
it.
to everybody,
It's embarrassing to everybody.
bro. It's
But
embarrassing to everybody.
but yeah, I can see how Moonlight definitely won awards because it's just like I said, it's such a captivating from a visual perspective, very beautifully shot. The actresses to me that stand out the most, which funny enough you mentioned. Um, was it? I don't want to give Mahershala Ali a standout because it was only 20 minutes, but he did amazing for the 20 minutes he was on. But it was definitely Teresa. That's the character's name, right? Naomi
Janelle Monae.
Campbell. No, Naomi Campbell.
No, Naomi Harris. She was Paula,
Paula. She's the one that won
the
the
mom.
Oscar.
No, she didn't win. She was nominated.
She was nominated. Okay, yeah. She
Yeah,
was nominated. She did an amazing job. She did an amazing job acting and portraying that character. In Act Three, when she's having that one-on-one with her son, you felt the pain. Like I felt the emotional connection there. Um, and her in Act Two, when she's acting very erratic and once again, it feels real. I don't want to say like anybody can do that because I don't believe that's true. Um, and for that to only be done in 3 days, that was astounding.
Will it make you feel better if I tell you who actually won for Best Supporting Actor?
That
Supporting
year, this
Actress?
is
Yeah,
2016,
yeah.
as an Oscar. Let me know. Let's
It
see.
was Viola Davis in Fences.
Okay, yeah, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, you're gonna lose. So Viola Davis, yes. Okay. Losing to Viola Davis is not an embarrassment. It's
Right.
yeah, but Viola Davis and Fences stood out. That was amazing. Also, Sharon, Act Two. The guy who plays Sharon in Act Two, I think
Mm.
he's a very good actor.
Yeah, he
Um,
was in The Equalizer 2 with Denzel.
Not just Equalizer 2, he's in another movie I saw, which I cannot remember right now for the life of me, but he plays a very good role where I feel like it was a Netflix movie too, or Netflix original. The way he acts, it's something, what's his name?
His name is Ashton
Oh,
Sanders.
okay. Who's the guy that plays the new Captain America? Like Anthony Mackie.
Anthony Mackie, yeah.
I think he's in a movie with Anthony Mackie. I think. But either way, he's a good actor. The way he plays his roles, the way his mannerisms, you could feel like I don't know, I could feel like you could feel the character's fear, anxiousness, vulnerability. He depicts that well on screen, in my opinion.
So he
Yeah.
was in I guess the biopic, the Whitney Houston biopic as Bobby Brown. The I Want to Dance with
Mm,
Somebody, the most recent one in 2022, and then he's in the Wu Tang series as well.
okay. What about
So
his
he played RZA.
filmography?
Yeah, that so it's a bunch of TV shows. Oh, and he was in Judas and the Black Messiah. So he
There
was
you
King
go.
Palmer in that. Yeah.
Judas and the Black Messiah. I've seen that. That's the
Yeah.
one with Denzel's son, right?
No,
Is
no,
that
that
it?
you're thinking of
No,
Black
that's the
Klansman.
classman. Okay.
Black Klansman. No, this is the one with Daniel Kaluuya.
Okay. That was on the list that you had showed me, but we didn't
Yeah,
pick that. Okay.
yeah. I don't,
He's a good actor. I also
yeah,
love the old black cast.
yeah. So
Um,
yep, all black cast.
I believe that was I don't want to say a good thing, but I'm just trying to say like it gave a chance to a lot of people to showcase their talents. And like
Like,
what I didn't
bro,
know, like you mentioned to me, was the guy who plays Black as an adult. That was his first big role.
yep. There were a lot of
Yeah.
people. Janelle Monae, that was her first acting role as well.
See.
The kid who plays Little, that was his first role. He
Wow. And then
yeah.
he ends up being on The Shy as a main character.
So him and the kid who played Kevin at age 9, they're both in the same drama group. The person who plays the principal when Sharon is after he gets beaten up is
Yeah.
their drama teacher.
Oh.
Yeah.
Talk about small world. So she
Yeah.
actually got a little bit of a on-scene screen. That's
Yeah, I
great.
think she was the one that brought them. I believe she was the one that brought them.
Oh, she's the one
Yeah.
that brought them to audition. That's great. They did good, man.
Yeah.
They all did good. The kid, you can feel it, his timidness, his shyness. He portrays that well. I mean, is there's more to acting than just being silent, but you can see the regression of shame, fear, curiosity that he portrays throughout his character in that role.
Yeah. And the whole movie was filmed over 25 days. The
I mean,
entire movie.
nowadays that does not surprise me anymore, just because I feel like um, a lot of companies are becoming more efficient in filming, um, movies specifically, that they can cram a whole lot into such a short amount of time.
Yeah, but I mean, especially if your budget is that low, it probably you don't have the luxury of doing all that extra stuff, keeping people around when they're not filming.
That's more
And
money. That's true.
yeah, and then
The
seeing
the
Naomi
long
Harris.
each day costs you quite a pretty penny.
Yeah,
So you're
seeing Naomi
right.
Harris just coming in 3 days, filming and back on tour, promoting Spectre. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, I still haven't seen Spectre.
Oh, I don't know which of these James Bond movies I've seen. I know
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
stopped
Casino
after a
Royale
bit.
and I've seen No Time to Die, but everything they all seem the same. But they're
Yeah,
good.
to
But
me, that they
just one
all, that's
long
what I'm
movie.
saying. It's just kind of like Mission Impossible. I stopped watching after a
Oh no,
certain.
no, do not compare it to Mission
No,
Impossible is work hard.
I'm just saying there's the same thing with Mission Impossible in the sense that I feel like I've seen once you've seen one or two, you've seen them all.
Fair
That's
enough.
it, because it's the
They're all
same
similar.
premise. Yeah, I like to see something different, like that stands out. Same thing with Fast and the Furious. I missed the last two or three. It's the same thing every single time. It's not even about racing no more. Sorry to get off topic.
Oh no, we've mentioned this on another episode. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's just like
the
you've seen
the,
one, you've seen them all.
I remember when that franchise was just a quarter mile at a time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Now it's just about, in my opinion, the money. It's still generating a whole lot from the box office, so
of course.
might as well continue.
All right. So before we go, I'll get your verdict on this. So is this a classic or not?
Huh. In my opinion, define classic to me, because classic to me means something that is at least 15, 20 years old and it's still a movie that is you can either learn from or still culturally relevant. I think this would be a classic. Will be a classic, but as of right now, to me, it's not a classic.
Okay. So
That
for you, it's just because of the time frame, not because.
Yes, this was
Okay.
8 years ago. So 8 years ago, I can't consider that a classic. It's just like one of the Avengers, like Avengers 3 or 2 came out around that time. You can't consider Avengers a classic because it still feels very
You wouldn't
relevant.
consider
I
Endgame a
think
classic.
Endgame, like a classic, mean to me, a classic means something that is old but is still like relevant. It's a great movie, but my definition of classic is something that is from a previous genre, or sorry, from like a previous timeline
Okay.
that
So
is
for
still
you,
culturally relevant.
it
Yeah,
has to be previous.
Avengers.
It
Yeah,
has Time
to be
has to
considered
elapse.
a, yeah,
Okay.
exactly, for classic. Well,
Okay.
Avengers, bro, any of the classics will be a class. Any of the Avengers will be a classic, and any of the Avengers, especially Endgame, probably top five all time on my list. So, yeah, that's no disrespect to that, but I think this movie, Moonlight, will be a classic. Yes,
Okay.
but yeah,
Okay. So the only thing getting in the way of a classic designation is 7 more years.
yes,
Okay.
something. Yes, but yes,
Okay.
I think it'd be a classic.
All right. I'll ask you again in 7 years. So this is the portion where I ask my guests about their Black Mount Rushmore, that is 4 contributors, directors, actors. Most people choose actors, but contributors to Black Hollywood. So do you have your Black Mount Rushmore? And that's 4.
Okay, I do.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go down that route too, where it's gonna be actors.
Go ahead.
Just because I'm not too familiar with directors and writers as much, but I'll start from 4. Number 4, I'll put Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
Number 3, I feel like this one might come to you as a shock, Jamie Foxx.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Jamie
I mean,
Foxx
it's your
is up there for me.
it's your list. I mean, there's, even if I wanted to judge it, I can't. And Jamie Foxx is a very fine example of it.
Amazing actor.
Yeah,
He has range.
extremely
Number
talented.
2, Ray, if anything, Ray gave me that confirmation. And just like how you are, I watched behind the scenes, how it's made, little trivias. You know, he actually went to go learn how to play the piano from Ray Charles. He had not play from Ray Charles, but he sat down and played with Ray Charles
Mhm.
as well. And he went to go learn how to play the piano to the
You
point
you
where they
want
said he could close his
close his eyes.
certain.
You want
Yeah,
to hear
and
something
then
funny about that? That
what?
movie's 20 years old now.
So now that one I can consider classic. Yeah, that came
Movie-
out 2004.
Yeah,
That's actually a good catch.
20 years.
Yeah. Number 2, Will Smith,
Of course, yes,
and number
absolutely.
1, the one and only undisputed Denzel Washington.
Okay, I got you. All right.
He typically top.
I'm not saying this as a critique, just a question. No women on your list?
I thought we were talking about men.
No, that's why I said Black Hollywood. That's why I
Oh
said
Lord.
contributors in
All
general.
right. I ain't gonna lie. I'm sorry, Samuel L. Jackson gonna have to drop a Viola Davis. That's the only change.
Okay, all right,
That's the
fair
only
enough.
change.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. But yeah, I'll say those. That's my Mount Rushmore. I love
Okay.
Viola Davis. She's amazing.
What's not to love? Like we just
Uh,
said, she beat Naomi Harris to win that Oscar in
yeah.
I guess the 2017 Oscars. Yeah, but for
Shout
Fences.
out to Taraji P. Henson, by the way.
All right. So now we are at the end of this episode, and before we do our closing remarks and all that, I want to ask all of you who are watching and listening, go ahead and subscribe, rate 5 stars only, leave a nice review, and or you could just, instead of a review, give us a movie recommendation that you'd like us to
That's
talk
true.
about on a future episode. Again, the only request we have of you is that it be a Black movie. Doesn't even need to have 100% Black cast like Moonlight. Just, you know, a Black movie when you see one. Okay. Just that's what we ask. Mac, again, I want to thank you so much for being part of
Sure,
this.
bro. Sure.
I'm sure I'm gonna lean on your expertise for another movie coming up, and
I'll let it come
when
back. Yeah.
when you are less busy, because I know you got some personal projects that you're working on as well. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, man. So again, thank you for listening and watching, and we'll try to do this again very soon.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate it.
Of course. All right.